I am Owen Dara, and welcome back to Dungeons & Dragons 101. Today we are going to be talking about character creation. After all, we first of all talked about how to play the game. Next thing you kind of need is the character, right? So what we're going to do actually, you can see on my screen, is that I have a Dungeons & Dragons character sheet up. This is from Wizards of the Coast. I will put it in the description. And we're going to be using the player's handbook, which I've got with me. Hopefully you can see it in the corner. I can't really tell what's actually on my screen right now. So I'm just hoping that it records right. And in a few episodes, we are going to go over character creation. So today we're going to mainly focus on um, ability scores and races, because we're going to do this the way that I like to do it. Mind you, there are different ways, different orders people go through making characters. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. We're going to talk about a few of the little things along the way. Personally, I like making my characters by hand a lot more than using pre-generated characters. Feels like it has its own personal touch as well. D&D Beyond has character designers, but doing it by hand leaves all the options open. You can use any of the books that you have, and not just the ones that you've purchased on D&D Beyond. So first of all, let's give our guy a name. You know what? Mm, we're gonna call him Bob. I like Bob. No. Um, you know what? I'm feeling. Let's roll ability stats first. The ability scores are what you can see over here: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Each of these will have a numerical value, and that will tell us a certain thing about your character. The higher the value, the better you are at that task, pretty much. An average value for like your common civilian is somewhere between a 10 and 11. So if it's higher, you're going to get benefits, these things called modifiers, which I'll show you when I put these in. And also, if you're below it, you have negative effects. Again, modifiers. So, the way that this works, there's a few different methods. There is a point method, which is talked about in the player's handbook, which I'm going to reference now because I've never used it, but it exists. Pretty much, you're given an amount of points. You're given 27 points, and you have to expend all those for each different type of ability score. If you want an ability score value, it will cost you a certain amount of points. So it's good enough to give you about 3 high numbers and 3 low numbers. So you'd end up with 3 ability scores of 8 and 3 ability scores of 5. I will try to find something about this and put it in the link. Or if I'm able to, edit the video to have it in. But I'm not good at editing videos yet, so we'll see how well that goes. And honestly, I don't know, I don't find this method useful. If your dungeon master wants to use it, they'll probably ask you to do it explicitly, and then you can always ask them, or I'll do a mini episode about it. The other way to do it is to have assigned values. Um, yeah, so in the player's handbook, they give you some ability score values that you can just automatically plug in: a 15, a 14, a 13, a 12, a 10, and an 8. So what we're going to do to just keep track of this stuff is I'm going to zoom out. I'll put it in my character name spot for now. So what they would say that you had would be a 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and an 8, which is considered a balanced set of different ability scores. But let's not do that. The most preferred way is rolling for ability scores, mainly because one, it's easy for people to cheat, so people like doing it that way, especially if they can do it on their own. But also, it allows for your character to be really good or really bad. The main preferred method that people use nowadays is you roll 4 dice and you take the top 3. So you drop the lowest. But we're going to do it today the old fashioned way because I like to mix it up a bit, which means you just roll 3 dice and you put it in. So what we're actually going to do is I'm just going to roll for what you normally can do is you'd roll the values, you get them in a list like I had shown up before, the 15, 14, 12, 10, 8, missing one, whatever, let's put in this 12. And then you would put these however you want. So we could make the Dex 15, Constitution, Intelligence 8, however you want to do it. But because I want to challenge myself and also do this the way they did it in the old days of Dungeons and Dragons, like back in the original box, you roll for each ability score. So I got my lucky dice. Let's see what I get. So for strength, oh, I need one more D6. I'm just gonna. Where'd I put my bag of dice? Can't find it. No, not my dice bag. There we go. There we go. Okay. Let's see. So, strength score is going to be, we got a 1, a 2, and a 6. So we have a strength of 9. We're not that strong. We're a bit below average. So, actually, no, we'll do all the ability scores before we do modifiers. So, dexterity then. Let's hope for something a bit higher. No, we got an 8. We are not strong. We are not dexterous. That is unfortunate. Let's see. Ooh, there we go. So on the bread side, our constitution, I got a 5, a 4, and a 3. So that means we got a constitution of 12. We're at least above average at something. Let's see what our intelligence is going to be. Yeah, no, below average, probably. Medieval peasant, never got educated kind of intelligence. Maybe a bit below that too. Maybe got hit in the head by a shovel when he was little. I don't know. Never quite recovered. So there we go. Because one of my dice fell off the table. There we go. Okay, so we got lucky here. We got an 18. So 3 sixes. So we are very wise, although we are not very intelligent. And I'll talk about what each of these ones means when I get to them. And we go over modifier. So charisma, finally. That's not horrible. That is, again, another 12. So, how modifiers work. The average modifier is so the base ability score is a 10 or an 11. So these give a modifier of +0. For the next group of 2, which would be 12 and 13, we get +1. And so on and so forth. So again, 14, 15 would be +2. And finally, going down the scale, a 9 and an 8 are going to be -1. These modifiers will affect our saving throws and skills. Now that we've done this, I can zoom back in. Skills. So that's these two columns here, saving throws, skills. They'll also affect doing any action pretty much that requires something related to each of these. So let's go over what all the ability scores mean. Strength is very much a measure of our athleticism. We can tell that we are below average in being athletic, which means we got a -1. Now, by the way, the modifiers, some people put the modifiers in the top box. I like to put them in the bottom box because I like to see my big numbers. I don't know why. This is how I prefer to do it. Some people will tell me you are doing it horribly wrong. I don't really care. Unless the sheet is one that auto fills, which this one isn't, we'll do it this way. Dexterity is pretty much your agility, reflexes kind of stuff. Again, we suck at that. Let's see. Our constitution is a 12, so that means it's a +1. And constitution is pretty much how healthy you are, your vitality, stamina, etc. Here are the two weird ones that people have trouble differentiating: intelligence and wisdom. So first of all, our intelligence is a -1. Our wisdom is actually a 11 to. We got 12. Is a +2, and then 14. Sorry, +1. 14 is +2. 16 is +3. Yeah, +4 is our wisdom, which is not bad. The highest a player can get up to without magical items is a 20 in an ability score, which is a +5. It does not mean that other things in the game might have ability scores higher than that. This is just how the rules of the game are set. I guess it prevents you from becoming stupidly godlike early on. So let's see. Intelligence and wisdom. Yeah, the difference of them is pretty much intelligence is how much you know, how smart you are. Wisdom is kind of more how aware you are of situations. It's related to skills like perceiving stuff, investigating. No, sorry, not investigation. Perception, which is seeing things. Medicine, being able to actually help people. Survival, being aware of your surroundings and surviving in the wild, that sort of stuff. And charisma, which is a +1. Charisma is very much personality. Some people relate it to how nice your character looks, but it's also related to performing, deceiving, persuading, etc. So this is our current ability score. That's not bad. Now we need to select a race. Yeah, we'll pick a name after we select a race. So, in Dungeons and Dragons, races are pretty much just species. It's the different type of fantasy groups there are. Now, some races will have sub-races in them. We'll talk about that actually when we get to picking races. Anyways, let's go ahead and pick a race. Now, in the Player's Handbook, we've got a handful. There are dwarves, elves, humans, halflings, which are pretty much hobbits. For those of you who know Lord of the Rings, there are a few other ones, half-elves, which are half human, half elf, half orc, half human, half orc. Tieflings, or tieflings as some people pronounce it, who are descendants of people who may deal with the devil or devils, because there's multiple devils in Dungeons and Dragons. And then we got Dragonborns, which aren't the Skyrim type. For those of you who might be excited, Dragonborns are dragon people, pretty much. Not to be confused with other Dungeons and Dragons things, Draconians, which are also dragon-like humanoids. Yeah. So those are the ones that they have out here. Every single race gives you certain benefits. A lot of them will give you some ability score modifiers, maybe a proficiency in one or two things, and then maybe one or two side abilities. Now, sub-races, for example, the dwarves, there are two different types of dwarves in this book. There are hill dwarves and mountain dwarves. Hill dwarves live more on hills, flat terrain, above ground. Mountain dwarves, very much your Tolkien-style dwarf, in the mountain, mining, deep underground. Same with elves. There are high elves and wood elves. Again, high elves think maybe more Rivendell. Wood elves think more Lothlorien. Again, Lord of the Rings references because a lot of this stuff is drawn from that. So instead of getting all the stuff, you get a tiny bit for just being a dwarf, for example, and then you'd get a bit of other stuff for being a hill dwarf. And then if you're a mountain dwarf, you'll get a bit different stuff. So, some of the stuff that you will get will definitely be an ability score modifier. That is almost certain. So let's pick a race. I love half elves, but they don't have a sub race, and I kind of want to show that off. So I'm thinking, I don't want to do an elf. Don't want to do an elf. Oh, I forgot about these guys. There are gnomes. Gnomes. Yes, for those of you who love Gnomeo and Juliet, or any other garden-based stuff, we have gnomes. So yeah, let's be a gnome. In the Player's Handbook, they have a bunch of name ideas. I'm just gonna pick one of those for my character, maybe, or my wisdom's really high. I'm not that smart though. Sherlock Holmes, investigation, perception, maybe no. Well, gnome. I want to pick a funny name. You know what? Let's go with one of the ones in the book. Zook is a recommended gnome name. I like Zook. We will be Zook. Um, Ah, you know what? Just Luke. Just Luke. We're just Luke. Um, just, ju- just Zook. There we go. And we are going to be a gnome. So, as a gnome, we get the following. Our intelligence will move up by 2. So, our intelligence changes from an 8 to a 10, which brings our modifier just to being a +0. As well, we find out a bit of information about gnomes. Gnomes live for 350 to 500 years. They give some recommendations for flavor, which we'll talk about in another video. The next important thing is our size. We are considered small. This isn't on this part of the sheet. This will be down somewhere. Anyways, I'm just going to put this down here in my features and traits. Size will be small. Yeah, so we are just considered small. This will come into play when we want to add more to the character, but not really that much right now. So we are small. That is cool. We also have a speed. Speed in Dungeons & Dragons is given in feet. This is the distance that you can travel in about 6 seconds, pretty much. So with a gnome, I can travel 25 feet in 6 seconds. Not bad. We get the following. We have this trait called Dark Vision. And Dark Vision, pretty much, I'm just going to write down Dark Vision, but we can see in dim light, dim light, like normal, and dark, like dim, for 60 feet, pretty much. There's more to it. I just like to give myself a general idea of what it is, and then if I really want to use it, I look it up in-game. We have a feature called Gnome Cunning. That just means that as a gnome, I have advantage on all intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saves against magic, which is pretty cool. Yeah, that is pretty awesome. What else we got? We get languages. So down here we have proficiencies. This is other stuff that aren't skills that you're proficient in, which means you're good at using them. You get this benefit called your proficiency bonus, which we put up here. And I'll talk about probably when we get to classes. But we get proficiency. So I usually, if I'm writing this sheet, I put languages at the bottom and put the other stuff at the top. But I can't. So languages. I get to speak Gnomish and Common. So just so you know, in Dungeons and Dragons, there's a language called Common. That's pretty much the language that everybody speaks, and then usually the races have their own languages. And sometimes Dungeon Masters like to create their own ones. If you've been watching our Not Presently Deceased Dungeons and Dragons Adventures, you might become aware that there are actually regional languages that I've put in the game. That's to kind of add some flavor to it, as well as overarching dialects, but that doesn't really pertain to what we're doing right now. So, yeah, we got the languages, then we got a subrace. So there are 2 gnome subraces in the player's handbook: forest gnomes and rock gnomes. Let's go with forest gnome. So I'm just gonna note this up here, forest. So being a forest gnome gives us the following. Our dexterity increases by 1. So we're a bit better, but not good enough. What else? We get natural illusionist. So natural illusionist gives us, we know, minor. Oh, cool. The minor illusion cantrip. So when I talk about magic in a little bit, not in this video, but in another one, we will cover cantrips and what that means. Pretty much this means a spell that you can cast whenever you want. But sometimes it isn't like that for non-magical groups. I automatically know it. and I use and I use my intelligence as my using intelligence. So I use my intelligence when dealing with it, just so people know for ability scores. Usually we use the first three letters to distinguish all of them. In Dungeons and Dragons, so it would be int, wiz, char, con, dex, and well, this one we just refer to as strength. You can't pronounce yeah. Oh, I feel like I'm going way over time, but it doesn't matter. So, we have one more trait. We get speak with animals, which pretty much is what it is. Through sounds, uh, we can communicate with simple ideas to tiny creatures, pretty much, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and then it goes into some detailed text. But this is pretty much our characters so far. We've got our ability scores. We have our race set up, and we're all set for the next video. So in the next video, I will be talking about classes and what a class is and how levels kind of work. And then after that, we'll go into a bit more flavor and probably a third video. And then I might make a fourth one on magic for all the different classes. Or I might cover magic in the class video depending on how long I go. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. If you liked this video, remember to like, subscribe to our channel. There's a little bell beside the subscribe button that'll give you notifications whenever we post videos. We post about twice a week, depending on what we've been able to produce. Usually it is one of these videos and one of our adventures with the not presently deceased group. Although this week we're probably going to have a few more videos posting out throughout. Usually, probably it's going to be about this series. Anyways, if you enjoyed, remember to like, subscribe, ring the bell, comment if you have any critiques. If you think that there's something that I missed, please mention it. We're all here to help each other. And for those of you who are new at Dungeons and Dragons, I hope this wasn't too overwhelming. I'll put a bunch of resources again in the at the bottom of the video for those of you who want to use them. Okay, so next time we're going to go over classes, and again, see you later.